Today we're going to talk about moving to Cape Coral and some of the insider secrets, things you may not have heard before. Getting after that next. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. So if you're looking for a channel to tell you a little bit more about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the little bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out, and maybe even leave a comment down below of something else you'd like to know. I'm getting calls, texts, and emails from people every day, and I love it. If you've got a question that you need an answer to, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. Okay, as promised, today we're going to talk about things you may not have heard before. Everybody's heard about the weather, about the no state income tax, about the bad drivers, about gators, all those fun things. But what do you know about what it's like to own pets here? And the tolls in the area, maybe the stem wall construction and how that affects the pool cage. There's a lot of stuff that's behind the scenes that you might want to know about. All the way down to some of the problems we have with Waste Pro, recycling, and what you need to know when you're putting stuff at the curbside. And the last thing that's going to be on this list, you absolutely have to stick around for because it was something that blew our minds when we saw it. I'm briefly going to touch on what the market's doing right now. Again, this is July of 2021. The market's still very busy. Listings are coming on the market regularly now, and while that looks encouraging, twice as many leave the market. So it is super busy. I just saw a report this morning from the Florida Board of Realtors saying that the percentage of listings year over year is literally less than 50% of what it was last year. So we are in a situation that we do have somewhat of a shortage, but interest rates dropped again to 2.88%. So things are still encouraging to those buyers out there. You're just going to have a lot of competition. Now, since we're going to talk about Cape Coral, I'm going to briefly touch on the fact that it is a residential city. It's not like Fort Myers. Fort Myers is a little bit more dense and packed and busy and just a lot more traffic. A lot of commercial buildings, a lot of retail. So there's a much different feel in Fort Myers until you get to maybe the south end of town. Cape Coral is pretty much just a spread subdivision. There's a few communities out there. There are some businesses on the main roads of Cape Coral Parkway, Del Prado, Veterans Parkway, and Pine Island. But other than that, for the most part, everything is truly residential. Lots of neighborhoods, lots of different neighborhoods that you can search around and find what fits you. You'll have some of the newer stuff, some of the older stuff, some of the big homes, some of the small homes. So do yourself a favor, drive the areas, get to know what you like, and then search those areas. Now, amid all this busyness in the market, I briefly want to touch on what I'm finding out about moving companies, especially for my clients moving from other cities across the country. One came from Colorado. They literally had their things held hostage for weeks, and they paid 3 times as much as they were originally quoted. Unfortunately, in these contracts that the moving companies are using, they're kind of leaving it open for change. I heard some builders doing the same thing, escalation clauses, where they're passing on costs as the expenses continue to climb. But that wasn't just one client. There was another client coming from Minnesota, and to make matters worse for them, their stuff was shipped down ahead of time before the moving company was told to come down. And then they took all their stuff back to Minnesota and had to bring it back down again. Not only was their stuff delayed and not here for them, but they had to pay 3 times as much as well from when they were first quoted. And part of it is because they took the stuff back and forth. Who asked them to do that? Wouldn't it have made more sense to put it in storage here and leave it here? But no. They were also forced to pay that bill because there's no language in these contracts that keeps them from doing it. So do yourself a favor. You might want to get yourself a U-Haul, get some friends to help you pack it up, make some friends down here to help you unload it, because these moving companies that I'm hearing about, not good stuff. Now, if you're going to be living in Cape Coral, one of the things you have to know about is the toll system. The bridges getting on and off the peninsula is what we are. The top 25 employers, the majority of them are over in Fort Myers. Now, that's aside from retail businesses, because obviously we have the Target, the Walmart, the Home Depot, the Lowe's. So those places are there. If you're working in those kind of companies, you'll have them here. But the other ones, there's some healthcare over here, but most of it's in Fort Myers and Naples. There's also larger companies like Chico's and Arthrex, Hertz. So if you want those kinds of things, Gartner's another one. But those are all over in Fort Myers. Much of the other healthcare services, the assisted living facilities, a lot of that's over there, so you're going to need to use the bridges. With the bridges, there's a toll system. You'll need a leeway or a sun pass. It's a little fob that gets stuck to your window. They used to have them as independent blocks. Now they're kind of stickers. Each vehicle that you have in the household will need one of these. Now, the way it generally works, they stopped the whole collection of money at these tolls. Obviously, with the pandemic, it changed a lot of things. So now they will just scan your license plate and they'll send the bill to your address on your license. So make sure that's updated. You can actually buy a discount program where you have a card on file. Every time it gets down to $10, they charge it back up to $30. You only pay $1 when you go through the toll instead of the $2. If you wanted to do a unlimited program, if you know you're going to be back and forth a ton, you can do an unlimited program that'll get you through those times. You won't have to worry about recharging your card. Now, if you're going to be doing this discount program, it's $40 for the bridges that connect Fort Myers and Cape Coral. It's $67 for the year if you're going to be doing it for the Sanibel Bridge. And then it's $107 if you're doing all the bridges. Now, it's not only for work that you're going to be going back and forth across these bridges. Think about the entertainment. I mean, I go to Fort Myers Beach all the time for whether it's the waterfront dining and the dancing and the few adult beverages here and there, or it's the downtown Fort Myers. Again, they have bike nights and city walks and art walks, all these types of functions going on. So you have to cross the bridges to go to those. So if you are truly somebody who's going to be going back and forth a lot, just get the fob, be done with it, peace of mind, don't have to worry about it. Now in our area, we have Waste Pro. They're the ones that take care of our trash and our recycling here. It is something that's on your tax bill, so you don't have a separate charge. It's just already figured into your taxes. There's different collection types here. We have a horticulture that'll pick up all your palm fronds and greenery that you put by the curbside. Try to bind them together in a pile if you want those picked up. Don't just throw them at the curbside. As far as recycling goes, there's very specific things they want to see in the recycling. And the reason behind this, I found out, is that if you put something in recycling that doesn't belong there, like they even say the cartons that hold liquids, because they're coated with wax, you're not supposed to put them in there, they then have to ship it somewhere else. So it's more time intensive, it costs more money. And if we want to keep our expenses down for this kind of stuff, we need to make it as easy as possible. Another thing that we have here is they do bulk pickups. So a bulk pickup is where if you have some furniture, whether it's a couch, a table, end tables, TVs, all that kind of stuff, that's considered bulk because it's larger. So what'll happen is when you put this by the curbside, they'll put stickers on it to have another group come back and pick it up with their special truck. They even have a little crane on this thing to pick bigger things up. But if you stack things on top of one another, they will not take it. It has to be laying separate and individual next to each other. And cardboard and things like that need to be piled up and bound if possible. You have to make this as easy as possible for them. Now, hazardous materials. This is any of the oils and the paints and those kinds of things that you just don't know what to do with them. There's actually a location in Lee County that you can drop off between 8 and 5 during the week. And the first Saturday of every month, you can do it between 8 and 12, I believe it is. If you are in Cape Coral and you just want to wait for the bulk drop-off, they're doing one here August 1st, 2021. If you want to be using that, it's between 7 and 11 that morning off of Cultural Park by City Hall. And if you're doing this, you have to have a license that shows you're a resident. They're not just letting anybody do this. It's only for Cape Coral residents. So mark it on your calendar if you have hazardous materials and don't want to have to drive over to the facility in Fort Myers to take care of that. Now we're going to talk about some of the inside or home issues that you may be running into. If you have a pool in the back of your home, you're required to have a 4-foot fence or a screen enclosure around that pool. Now, even if you have a screen enclosure, you have to have the latches to the door up high so they can't be reached by little ones. And on the inside of the home, there are little holes in the deck that are usually covered with plugs. That is for a child safety barrier fence. It stretches around the edges of the pool. If you don't have that, you're going to need the alarms inside on the sliders so that when you open the doors, an alarm sounds. Again, all safety devices, they have to be done. There's one that's a little different here. If you happen to have a stem wall on your pool area and it's over 30 inches, to drop down to the next level, you need to put a railing up at that point. And that railing has to be about 42 inches off the ground. This is to protect against falling from greater distances. Greater distance, more injury. So you'll see this again on stem walls. You can get around this if you build a planter outside of the cage, which steps down, and it's less than 30 inches. You can do a progressive step down if you need to, but you can't go from a tall height any more than that 30 inches, or you're going to end up having to make modifications down the road, which could affect your view if you happen to be on a Gulf access canal. Another thing to consider about these pool cages, that screening, believe it or not, has a UV element in it that will block the UV rays. So if you're trying to lay out and get some sun, that's not the way you're doing it. 30 to 80% of the UV rays are blocked out by the standard screen. So if you want to get rays, get out in the actual sunshine outside of the screens, which then opens you up to potential bug issues. Speaking of bugs, standard screening. You can still get no-see-ums coming through those screens. The holes are big enough, they can make it through. So what did they do? They came up with no-see-um screening. Yes, you can actually get a screen more tightly wound so that these little no-see-ums can't get through. Very beneficial. The last type, it's a polyester braid kind of screening, and it's supposed to last up to 21 years. So if you're somebody that's looking for the best value, best bang for your buck, make something last, don't have to worry about replacing it, that might be the option for you. Now with these screen enclosures, another thing you're going to have to be considering, if it's a white cage, you're going to need a pressure wash, maybe use some bleach once in a while to get the algae and things off. Just stay on top of it so it doesn't build up. It'll be a lot easier to remove. Also, the little screws that are holding this whole thing together, they're supposed to be stainless steel, but I'm going to tell you, even when I owned my pool, those darn things rusted, and because it's a white cage, it left rust marks. You can get small caps to cover it up, little plastic caps that'll cover it to make it look better, but at some point, you may end up even having to change these screws because they just get rusted out, and then you're going to have bigger issues down the road. Now in this area, people love to talk about flooding and water intrusion and all those kinds of things that can happen with water. Well, I'm going to talk about one you may not know about, and this happened to me, so that's why I really know it well. When I was doing the mulching in my community, because they require you to do it every so often to keep it looking nice, you're supposed to pull the mulch away from the house first and dispose of it, then put down new mulch. What do most people do? They put new mulch on old mulch. So what happens, you start to stack this up. It starts to build up. Well, the paint that we put on our homes here, because it's concrete block homes for the most part, that paint is also a barrier against moisture. Well, over the years, it breaks down between the sun rays and just the weather itself. So as you're stacking this mulch up against that concrete block wall, it's holding water in there when it rains and when the sprinklers go off. So now this water will start to seep through the concrete block, and it'll make its way inside the home, in behind your drywall. That's when you have real issues. That's where the mold can start. So be very cautious about how you're handling the mulch when you're putting it in. Keep it away from the wall as much as you can, or at least make sure the wall has its protective barriers, because you could end up with the same situation I was, where I then had to remediate for the mold, and I had to have air quality tests to make sure everything was fine afterwards. It was just a big mess. You don't want to go through it. Just take care of the mulch issue from the front end of it. Another wonderful thing I found out about the Cape Coral City and its services is if you're getting your water and sewer from them, and there's a problem with the water, like a line breaks or something, they only take care of it up to the box. So anything beyond the box to the house, it's on you. I found this out again firsthand. I had a leak, and I found out yesterday from the city it was 15,000 gallons worth of water in a month. My normal usage, maybe 1 to 2. So there's going to be a big bill coming. Now, because it was a break, I'm going to be able to dispute it, and I do have a receipt showing I made the repair, so it was a real issue. It wasn't just me leaving all the showers on and doing a ton of laundry. But I did find out what I need to do now, so I need a plumber to fix that. Same thing with my irrigation, some kind of blockage. The city won't do anything about it. Once it's beyond that box that comes to your yard, it's on you. So get a good plumber. If you need a referral, let me know. I'll help you out with that. But it will be on you from there. Something else that happened this past week that I think you might need to know about, because solar is becoming big here. A lot of people are putting solar panels on their home. There is a loan program called PACE that gets attached to your property, and it is a loan. It could show as an assessment, but it will sit with the house. It doesn't follow the person, it follows the house. So if you're buying a home and this PACE loan is on there, you need your realtor to check and find out if they are truly still paying on this, and decide what you're going to do. Are you going to take it over because you're taking over the convenience of having solar? Or are you going to ask for it to be paid off, which needs to be done at closing? Now, again, Cape Coral is a big subdivision. There are some communities within, but overall, it's a big subdivision. So you'll have nice little neighborhoods. Many of them are cordoned off by canals, so it does give you a feel of a gated community without the gates. It's just surrounded by canals instead of fencing. Well, in these areas, you don't have restrictions on pets like you would in a community. There's no breed restrictions, there's no number restrictions, there's no size restrictions. So if you're somebody that has animals, you might want to consider being outside of the communities so that you're not told how to handle it. There's also a leash law, so you do have to keep your pet on a leash if you're going to be out and about. You can get fined if you do not have them on a leash. And lastly, about animals, believe it or not, Cape Coral does not have an animal control division. You know who does it? Our police officers. So yeah, if their job isn't hard enough, now they get to round up stray animals if yours gets loose. Something else that's pretty cool that we have here in the Cape Coral area is if you happen to be an advocate for handguns and rifles, any kind of weapons, we have ranges here. We have indoor and outdoor gun ranges. Now, I prefer the outdoor ranges just because you don't get the reverberation that you would inside of a building when you go to the indoor range. But on the outside, you get the fresh air. You got a nice big shooting range. You've got rangers there watching the grounds, so safety is definitely a priority. And the place that I like to go, it's called Cecil Webb, and they are on the Babcock Ranch area. Anyway, there's 4 different ranges there. You have a shotgun range where we skeet shoot. You've got a mid-range rifle for like ARs and AK-47s and any other type of hunting rifle you can use on that range. They have a handgun range, and they also have a long-range rifle range. So if you're a sniper kind of person, they have one of those. They're not doing high-powered rifles there in most of these ranges, though. There's just too many safety issues. But this range is out of the way. There's big mounds of dirt stacked behind the targets, so it keeps it ultra safe. And to use this, it's about $6 for a car full. So if you have a bunch of people, $6 will get the whole car in. Otherwise, it's $3 per person to go to this range. There was at one time an appointment that needed to be made due to the pandemic, but that's recently been dropped. So out there you can go every day of the week except for Tuesday and Wednesday. So keep that in mind. Make sure you check the schedules before you drive out there because it is a little bit of a drive. Otherwise, you're going to be going to one of the indoor ranges, and you'll check this map. There's a number of places you can do a search and see even more. But another different form of entertainment if that fits your lifestyle. It seems like every time that I go out and about, I find another experience with wildlife in the area. So you're going to see all kinds of things when you're here. Many different species of birds. Yes, we do have gators, and you will see them from time to time. I don't have small pets. My son's a little bit bigger, but we are safe and we do watch out when we go out there. So just keep in mind, wildlife is close by. And with all the construction going on right now, they can certainly encroach upon your property. So watch those pets, fence your yard if you have to, keep a close eye on them. Another thing you're going to see in the area is if you go to the waterways, there's some great experiences. We found some dolphins playing the other day. It was amazing. I missed the shot when he jumped out of the water. I kid you not, just like Flipper, up and out. It was awesome to see, but my camera wasn't ready. And then we were golfing out at South Seas, and this is where we saw this iguana. And you think, hey man, this is a resort. What are you doing with iguanas out there? You don't control where the wildlife goes. It literally is everywhere. And it's so disturbing in some cases. Some people might even freak out at certain things. Like this, the other day. And this is the thing that I'm guaranteeing you probably never saw before. Snakes can climb walls. Yes, this snake was climbing a wall trying to get a frog on the fascia going up to the roof. I couldn't believe it, my family couldn't believe it, and if it wasn't on this video, you probably wouldn't believe it either. But that's just a little bit more about what we have going on with wildlife in Southwest Florida. Well, there you go, some more insider stuff that you'll find out about Cape Coral. If you want to know more that we haven't talked about here yet, go ahead and check out one of these other 2 videos. And if you've got any specific questions for me, you've got to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.